Conclusion. Despair is the sickness unto death. But death is not the mortal death. Don't despair in being yourself or not. Don't despair at the possibility or necessity of things. Kierkegaard, 1849. Anti-interpretation as privilege. Modernism and suprematism are movements that reject justification and prescribed systems of meaning. We, the most daring, have spat the altars of its art of malefic rites. Krauss calls the grid, a cornerstone of modernist painting, a paradigm or model for the anti-developmental, the anti-narrative, the anti-historical. Sontag decides that the function of criticism should be to show how it is what it is, even that it is what it is, rather than to show what it means. These texts support the idea of art as something which evades meaning and understanding, that create value outside of what we understand to be true and real. We can say that this thinking relates to the growth of existentialism in the 20th century, in the sense that it abandons prescribed systems of thinking, and values creation in of itself. The problem comes when we consider anti-interpretation or justification as a privilege, and an idea that comes from a society that was and is on the giving end of colonization and oppression. Postmodernism, people and color and queer people, to summaries, still have to justify themselves and deal with their place in the world, particularly when it comes to making art. Place as justification. When we go past understanding pain, we start to reclaim our autonomy and take power in defining ourselves. In Black Carnations, the physical space of the installation, a tiny installation set inside a former public toilet, with the techno music spilling out into the surrounding park, is its story, what Zhukov called a heterotopia, subverting its outsider world. Zhukov understands the pain and isolation of queer individuals, and uses space to face its reality. And when we face this, we create something new, that is unburdened. It is existentialist in the way that Kierkegaard writes, that we move through pain again and again, but more acute, as it can't be fixed by the Western existentialist canon. In Baba, Ul-Qasimi displays the space of her family's home as a site of colonial imposition. In this collection of photographs, the Western furniture and extreme cleanliness is a method of justification. It is a presentation of the right to be here and the right to be considered of value by Western society. Therefore, the actions of people of color, particularly in post-colonial countries, is not their own, they are rather a constant asking to be acknowledged and treated as equals. 20th century theory that asks not to interpret or look for meaning in our existence cannot touch upon this because it doesn't take into the account of people of color, or queer people, who must still justify their existence even when philosophy has made its conclusion on the meaning of life. Freedom in action. Where do we go then in living in a way that doesn't need justification? For this we can look at two examples. The Emily Kane Nguore exhibition is a display of an artist who was entirely uninfluenced by the Western canon, and uses a sense of place with complete freedom, representing the country, all Hawker, the Aboriginal lands of Australia, as her own. Although it is important to acknowledge that the exhibition is coming from the lens of a British gallery, representing an Aboriginal artist, it goes a good job at showing Nguore's devotion to her country and heritage. In the final room, the supplementary information, taken from an Indigenous art centre, reads, "The country transforms itself and those paintings do as well." That is why the old woman is famous. Her work is an example of the freedom of moving through and experience pain and persecution and landing with autonomy. Considering this, we can look at Bernice Bing's work as much more insecure in its sense of place, moving between the landscapes of China and the US, particularly when we look at Bing as a queer artist in between two worlds. In the same vein, Rachel Jones reimagines her own suffering and the burden of suffering on black bodies throughout history, using the mouth in particular to deal with the trauma of slavery and colonization. Through abstraction, this trauma becomes her own to play with and take ownership of, and in this we see existentialist freedom in a contemporary sense, for everyone.